split with new players, new hope, and a new drive for that championship. Now, joining the ranks of 5-time winners Fnatic, that bright spark of Alliance, and the 4-time defenders G2 Esports is a dream that only one will realize. And it doesn't matter where these players come from. It doesn't matter how long they've been playing. The goal is the same, to etch their names into history. And with the fight for the title so close, closer than it's ever been, every game counts.
9 weeks ago, we had high hopes for former kings, reigning champions, and exciting rookies, but things didn't exactly go as expected. 4-time EU LCS champions G2, they failed to rally around superstar perks and haven't even locked a playoff spot going into week 9. The star-studded football-backed Schalke 04 took long, very long to find their synergy, and H2K upset will have to prove their worth if they want to make it to the postseason. Now finally, the most exciting set of rookies ever, Vitality, smacked everyone around in the first weeks, but they need to keep pushing if they want to put their money where their mouth is. Because this is the harsh reality. Only Fnatic and Splyce secured a playoff spot. 8 teams are fighting for the remaining 4. And for 4 teams, the spring split will be over. Every game counts.
And this is what it all boils down to. 8 weeks of sweat and tears, of upsets and heartbreak. 8 weeks of preamble, because this is it. 2 days, 10 games, and one last chance to prove you belong amongst the best in Europe. One last chance to stand on this stage, plant your feet, and challenge kings. Because this week, in the European LCS, every game counts.
And for the first time in history, the 4th consecutive EU LCS title, G2 Esports.
Misfits, the underdogs in this game. No one expected anything, but they picked hard.
Yakos, the first Blood King!
Supporter, joined by Maurice Amazing Stückenschneider. What an introduction. I've got chills, Maurice.
Yeah, I'm hyped.
Yeah, I'm hyped as well. But if we look at the standings, we have so many reasons to be hyped. I can't even put it into words because every game is so important. Let's take a look. Fnatic and Splyce, they are locked in playoffs. Fnatic's locked in first. But there is a battle on 2 fronts for all those playoff spots, but also for the 2nd place. So I'm going to put you on the spot, Maurice. Splyce, G2 Esports, or Team Vitality?
I did predict Vitality to win today against Splyce, but I do think that Splyce has the easiest road. So for them, it's basically up to them screwing up, and I don't think they will. They
won't, according to Maurice. So Splyce, his number 2 teams, but also it's for all the rest of the playoff spots. 4 teams for those 6 spots that come from the bottom 6 teams. And I have my eye on H2K and the Unicorns of Love. They had a bit of a miracle run, but do you think they can actually do it? Can they break into that top 6?
It's really tough because UL especially had 2 losses against the top teams. So it's really tough to actually up their tempo right now and maybe beat the other 2 top teams. So I don't think they will make it. H2K may have a realistic shot.
May have a realistic shot. Who is your other dark horse out of maybe Rocket Giants?
I like Rocket a lot because I do think they have a really good project going on, and I think they actually look pretty strong right now.
Right, we'll see. Well, we've got a super close race going into the final week, and as a fun fact, our stats team, they ran 30,000 simulations of the remaining games with 50-50 odds, and these are the probabilities. So a 7-way tie, by the way, we have a 0.02% chance for that to happen, but crazier things have happened. But most likelihood is or 1 tiebreaker or 0 tiebreakers, but that is with 50-50 odds, and crazier things have happened in Europe, Maurice.
Yeah, I definitely want to see a lot of tiebreaks. I think it will be really, really entertaining, even if the chances are not there.
We'll see what happens throughout the day. We will have regular checkups on the standings, giving you the latest updates in the race for playoffs. And we also want to ask for your expertise. Who out of the bottom 6 teams will make it and why? You can tweet us that at LOL Esports with the hashtag #EveryGameCounts. And with so much on the line today, we're going to go to Verius because he is going to highlight some of the most important or pivotal matchups in his eyes.
Thank you very much, Shox. Yes, now I have 3 matchups that you are not going to want to miss this weekend. The first one is Misfits versus Roccat. That is going to be our second game of the day, and both these teams are neck and neck in the standings right now. Misfits, they've been struggling over the last few weeks, and Roccat had a pretty commanding game last week. I'm expecting it to be close, and one of these teams is very likely to make it into playoffs. Really excited to see what these teams can bring out, but that's only our first game. The next game that you guys are going to want to keep your eyes on is Fnatic versus Schalke. That is tomorrow's final game of the day, and it will end our week 9. It's going to be an exciting one because Fnatic, they have been on a tear. They have been defeating every single opposition that stands in their way, and to be honest, it feels like no team can answer them. But Schalke are going to have to if they want to get themselves that playoff spot. They've looked good after coming off a 2-0 week, and it's going to be a tough challenge to see if they can bring the fight to Fnatic. Now, the final game will be our match of the week with Splyce versus Vitality. Both these teams are very close to securing that second place spot. Both teams are looking extremely competitive, and you have so many individuals that you want to keep your eyes on. Jizuke, Kobe, Odo, Gilius, so many superstars that are going to be rising up in the ranks to see who can make it into that playoff bye and set us up for an exciting match of the week.
See, very interesting. The rise of Splyce. You haven't been here for a week or two, Maurice, but Splyce has just developed into a team that is now on a 5-game winning streak, which is not something that I'd expected after the first couple of weeks. So what's going on? What's changed for them?
What I like about that project is basically that they finally brought it together. I think the top set of the map that we criticized in the early parts of the split, where we said Niski is maybe underperforming, Xerxes doesn't quite synergize with the teammate, or the An looks kind of off. And all of them have come together. They don't rely on the Kobe late game anymore as much. They still can, but they don't need to. And I think that's a really good progress for them.
Yeah, they have a lot of tools in their toolbox, or a lot more than before. Verius, what do you make of Vitality? Not quite the bulldozer they were in the first weeks, but they're racking up some wins again, and that second place is in their sights.
It certainly is. I feel like that they have a good shot versus Splyce, given that Splyce, not the most proactive and successful early game team, and if you put them up against a team that is Vitality, that is known for getting that early advantage and snowballing what is such a strong lead, I think Vitality have a good shot.
And that winner of the match of the week will have a better shot at that quarterfinal bye, at that second place. That is what they are fighting for. We're going to take a look at Vitality versus Splyce in the third game of the day. Let's take a look at the other matches we have coming up. And just as a note, teams will be playing on patch 8.5 for the entirety of playoffs. Kaisa will be disabled, sadly, for some for the entirety of playoffs. And Maurice, when you think that they'll be playing on the same patch for a couple of weeks, that should mean, in theory, that the teams will get better and better on that patch as the weeks progress.
Yeah, especially for teams that are smart or supposed to be smart at the game, I think it really matters to actually have some time on the patch and basically to be able to adapt. And I think that especially counts for both Schalke and G2, even though we kind of didn't see as much from G2 as we did from Schalke in last weeks.
Yeah, Schalke will have to rally because they still want to make it to playoffs, and to do that, they must get as many wins as possible, starting with their game versus H2K. Now, both those teams still can make it to playoffs, but for H2K, it would truly be a very impressive run. They started off the split 1-8, and it really looked like they wouldn't make anything happen this split, so more kudos to them for turning it around mid-split.
Exactly that. It's that mid-split that was so important for this roster because things look bleak. We knocked them off as being the worst team in the league, and they brought in Selfie. They brought in Shook, specifically around that week 5 period, and everything seemed to change for this roster. They just seemed to find a new power that no other team really were able to stop.
But sadly for them, or luckily if they manage to win, but the stakes are if they lose this game, they are out of playoffs. So for H2K, even with the fantastic results of the past couple of weeks, it can all end here. And they need to beat Schalke. And Schalke, they just had their first 2-0 week. We can see it there, Maurice. It was not good. It was inconsistent. It was not convincing from Schalke for most of the weeks, and then they finally got that 2-0. Last week, did you see the Schalke that you expected to see with those names on the roster?
Not quite 100% there, but I do think they finally showed the progress that I wanted to see out of them, where they play with confidence, where they play like with energy. And I think that's something that they have to do, especially after 3 losses. Coming with a 2-0 is really, really important to just get their momentum back up.
I completely agree. I'm looking at Schalke and I'm seeing the amount of growth that they've made, and the fact that they've even been willing to bring in a sports psychologist, and the impact that so many of the individuals have said that it has been able to have on them has really shown, especially when you look at some of the individual players in the form of Upset. This guy had a fantastic week last week where he was having fantastic performances on both the Caitlyn and the other champion that I forget that he was playing. But overall, I'm really excited to see him play today.
Well, he's up versus Sheriff, so if that isn't a hype matchup, I don't know what is, because Sheriff has also been integral to the rise of H2K so far. And when we talk about momentum, Freeze talked about he finally felt comfortable, or that Sheriff was comfortable in that lineup. Amazing. And it looks to be paying off in his play.
Yeah, definitely. Like, for new members, it's always important to come into Ross and actually get some time in and actually just adapt to the rotations and like just the shot calling and whatever it is. And I think for Sheriff, it has finally come together.
I've really enjoyed the growth that Sheriff has made. He's developed into what's been known as a bit of a clutch player, where like when the pressure really gets on, he steps up and is able to net his team a win when it really matters. And I think that's going to be really important going up against Schalke today. I think we're going to see a bit of a slow early game, and a lot of the action is going to come in the mid to late game team fights, where both of these teams have really demonstrated some of their strengths really.
So what's it going to be, Sheriff or Upset, guys?
I still pick Upset and Schalke over Sheriff.
For me, it's got to be Upset and Schalke as well, but I do know that Deficio has the faith in H2K.
He is the only caster that put faith in H2K. We'll see what happens. Time to kick off the week and find out who makes it to playoffs. Pyro and Deficio, take it away.
Thank you very much, Shox. Hello, esports fans. I'm Devin Pyrotechnics Young here with the H2K faithful Martin Deficio. Linga, how are you feeling today?
The only one. I'm feeling great, you know. MVP week as well.
Stand alone, yeah.
We got to vote for who's actually going to be the MVP of the split. I personally got Reckless in there myself. Not sure who you're voting for.
Actually, I'm up there with Reckless as well, but he's definitely not the only candidate. So, but it's not about him right now. This is about H2K. This is about
it's
Schalke.
not about Reckless,
This is so important
later.
for both teams. If H2K lose this, they don't have a chance at playoffs. They're out.
It's true. They have to win every single game remaining. We're on the new patch, 8.5. Of course, the new champion, not available.
Yeah, Kaisa, more like kinda this time. Not for the playoffs anyways, but still here in week 9. We enter picks and bans, Schalke on the blue side, and we will not see the Swain.
Oh, the Schwein ban right there from Schalke. That's actually surprising, but he's pretty good top lane. He's gonna make his way into the meta, as we've already now witnessed with the first ban. Clearly, they have been scouting what Smitty J has been doing, seeing as they ban away first. Azir ban, kind of surprising. He got nerfed again in the early game on 8.5. Tristana bans, because Europe has this weird thing where Tristana apparently is overpowered.
It's also a big upset champion, just kind of across the board. We've been seeing him, for better or worse, hopping straight into those team fights.
But like,
now, Sejuani's gone too.
If I'm Schalke, I'd rather give my AD carry Caitlyn than Tristana. I think most of the coaches will agree that Caitlyn, at least in Europe, is just considered the better AD carry, unless you have Reckless on your team, which is not the case, of course.
Yeah, well, Caitlyn's still up and available. Sheriff, of course, has shown his merit on it. On the other hand, though, with Schalke now looking to lock, the Olaf is being hovered at the moment. Now, that's a champion that's been seeing a rise in popularity lately.
Yeah, and there's still a lot of junglers available, like Skarner is here, Kha'Zix also, so I don't think they're taking anything away with the jungle pick, and just as we talk about Caitlyn, it's locked in as the first pick. I'm sorry, but I think Caitlyn is just a superior AD carry.
It's a big takeaway from Sheriff as well. H2K will have to find their damage in a different AD carry. Now, what do H2K answer with, though?
What about some... Maybe they could play Zyrakan.
That's an option.
It worked for them beforehand. I think it is a good dual lane for both Promiscu and Sheriff. Also because you actually can still win late game team fights with Desire. So I like that choice. You don't have to get Rakan here. You can actually save it for later if you still want to grab a priority jungle pick. Like Skarner for Shook is a big one when it comes to target selections in team fights. Sejuani's already banned, so Zac could be the other one if he wants to keep playing, you know, something where he can actually be an engage for his team.
Right, it's all about those priorities. However, it looks like H2K do value picking up the support and getting that synergy in right away. So you're 2 for 2 on predictions now, Deficio. I'm going to put you on the spot again. How does Schalke answer?
Bot lane, if they want to show support, would be either Braum or Morgana. Morgana Caitlyn has become pretty good lane in Europe.
Yeah, we've seen some pretty crazy Morgana ones.
How did I miss the Rammus?
How'd you forget about that?
I want to see what else they actually want
It's
to
the
play.
Olaf, of course.
Okay, so Olaf, of course, even got buffed on this patch, which is super interesting. And I made a bold prediction on Twitter. Whoever picks Morgana will win. So I guess Schalke already won this game.
Well, if Vander ends up playing it like Hellsinger nor Skarin, then H2K could be in some trouble.
Oh, this would be a change. If we get Shook on something like Kha'Zix, he's mainly been playing junglers that can engage for his team.
All tanks, pretty much.
There you go. But there is a Rakan on the team, meaning they do have engage from support, so they don't have to bring it from the jungle. And Shook wants to now take this fight against the Olaf with the Kha'Zix pick. I like it. Aggressive jungle choices.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a change-up, too. I mean, both these teams have played, for the most part, for the late game, not really necessarily getting the snowball. H2K have had to come back more often than not. So this change-up here might be just what they need against a Schalke that also hasn't really played very much for the early game snowball either.
It's been a while since we've seen Schalke stomp someone in the early game. 100% agree.
Yeah, Vander was in the 80 carry role, I think.
It's a long time ago. Galio banned because H2K already banned the Corki, which could kind of prompt an early Galio pick in the next phase, and Schalke just kind of reading that situation instantly. Also, you really want to get rid of Galio when there's already Zyra Khan locked in. That combination is a little bit too strong.
Yeah, curious to see how much... Oh, man, they banned away the Cassiopeia as well, so still a lot of respect for Nuke Duck, and to be honest, he has his moments. He can always pop off. You never know which champion it's going to be on, even if he's a lame duck 9 out of 10 games.
There is... 2 mid lane champions I want to mention here. One is Anivia, works extremely well against Olaf because you can just kind of wall him off unless a flash is available. The other one is Talia, which I actually think is a super good mid lane choice. Push and roam with Zyra Khan on the bottom lane is great, but I think picking it now blind against Nuke Duck with already an Olaf jungle locked in could be too risky for them, but I just want to mention it as one of the potential choices.
Could indeed be the one, but there's always a very safe mid laner choice, and it's going to be the Orianna making that comeback pickup. Now for Schalke, all that remains is to see what they take in the mid and up towards the top.
So a bit of a wombo combo by H2K, not fully committing to a 1-3-1 split push with Kha'Zix kind of ganking the side lanes. Chachi gets to show his insane mechanics on Maokai.
Those are some fantastic mechanics.
Yeah. Hey,
Chachi has been all about those tanks lately. Of course, pretty much every top laner has been, and if this Talia does get locked in, you'll be doing pretty good on predictions today.
I mean, that one I kind of threw out. I didn't really say who's going to pick it.
Yeah, I do want to think about it.
I respect that you give it to me. I didn't.
I mean, I'll take it back if you want.
So one thing that's really cool with Maokai and a Predator jungler
you were wrong.
is lane ganks. There you go.
All right, so the Victor's locked in. Now, that's definitely a way to keep your opposing mid laner at arm's length.
Just matching scaling and wave clear against Orianna. I think that's a fine choice for Schalke. Good late game on their side with Kate, Victor, and of course the Maokai. I want to see what H2K wants to do, because at the moment their team fighting is a lot harder to execute with the Kha'Zix specifically. Top lane against the Maokai. smittyj loves to play some of these different carries that can take over the side lane, and it's going to be Gnar for him in this one here.
Despite some of the nerfs Gnar has been hit with, it's still a pretty good choice, you'd think, on paper up against the tree.
Yeah, I also like the fact that Gnar does bring a bit of mobility, because as I said before here, lane gangs with a Predator jungler like Olaf and a Maokai who just point and click snares you, it's really easy to set up. So Gnar at least can try and jump away and get to his turret. Also Shook on the Kha'Zix late on in the game can play around smittyj easily just gank Maokai and kill him. But again, I think the H2K comp is a little bit harder to execute than the Schalke one.
It certainly is, but there is that wombo combo potential that you were pointing out. Ball delivery system and the jungle in the top lane.
And it worked in the past for them.
It certainly has. And H2K have shown that, with the addition of these new players, they have found themselves some depth. They have found themselves some success. And what a Cinderella story it would be for them after going 1-7 to start the split, to turn things around, to make the playoffs. They have to keep winning to keep the dream alive. They lose this game here today, there is no chance for a postseason. But for FC Schalke, they are just trying to fulfill the destiny that they set for themselves to make it into that postseason. They are still on the edge, not far away from dropping off. Now, can they shrug off the pressure and take down H2K? That's what we're about to find out.
It's a big game. Week 9 starting now in the EU LCS.
Every game counts, Deficio. Here in Week 9, we are on the edge of the regular season, the edge just before the playoffs, and we will see who ends up making it into those top 6 spots. Schalke 04, H2K onto the Rift.
Especially want to look at Pride on the Olaf. Again, Shook on the Kha'Zix. I think, again, the jungle matchups going away from the tanks. Suddenly forcing them to be a lot more active, especially Pride. Do a full clear, get your boots, so you can activate Predator, and then just start ganking left and right. Where, again, with Shook, it's a lot more about what he's going to do after laning phase. Is he going to gank the side lane where smittyj is sitting? Feels like it's the only one he can actually gank with this composition, because Orianna doesn't really want to go side lane. Same thing for Victor. They can just kind of hold mid lane forever.
Yeah, well, that's one of the ways to play into that late game scaling strategy, right? That's both those teams have really loved.
It's actually one thing that scares me a little bit, because the Banner of Command plus Baron buff was nerfed on this patch.
A little bit.
It was, I mean, it's a pretty big one.
It still does a lot of damage, but yeah.
Does deal a lot of damage, but not as much. You shouldn't rush ban of command anymore. But teams had already kind of figured out how to deal with it and still stall games last week. Now when it's nerfed a little bit more, we see Victor being picked, so that's just instant wave clear forever. Like Schalke, they have the tools to stall this game for a long time, and it gets a little bit harder again now to snowball.
And that's how we've seen them find that success. Last week, we saw them make it to the late game relatively even, and they just outscaled. If they can do this to the likes of G2, you better believe they can do it to H2K.
Oh, of course. H2K's early game is not good. It's been a lot about just farming, get to late game, then have Sheriff go crazy in some fight. Of course, they've been drafting towards it. In this one, they've actually drafted a lot more aggressive. I feel like there's a lot more tools for H2K to be more proactive early. Let's see if they can actually do it.
Yeah, I mean, that is the question. You got to just look at those numbers. Like, we talk about Schalke not having the greatest early game, but H2K's has been awful. I mean, all you got to do is look back at, like, last week, for instance, up against G2 Esports, and Smitty J was just getting camped in the side lane. Everything was going against them.
I mean,
somehow they pulled it back.
Veteran said it the best himself. He was like, we hard in for 20 minutes, and then we get the 2 items, and we try and win a team fight.
Just H2K things.
Now, again, they don't want to specifically fall that far behind. That's definitely not part of the game plan, but it's happened a lot for H2K. And as I said before here, I don't think they can afford falling that far behind with this kind of draft.
I agree, and on the other side, Schalke are going to have to change up a little bit if they want to try and put them behind early, because we saw the numbers earlier. Pride, he's not exactly what you call a heavily ganking jungler.
He likes his farm.
Which is really weird considering the dude used to be a one-trick Rengar.
But at least on Rengar, you just wait for ulti every time and use that as an excuse. You just tell your team, guys, sorry, ulti's on cooldown, I gotta keep farming.
Yeah, but at least that's 6 he has to gank.
Yeah, that's true. You have to at least pull off one gank. But he likes to pull off like one. A single gank is what Pride will sometimes give you, and then he will farm a lot. In that case, I guess we can call him greedy when it comes to him valuing his own farm, sometimes above, ganking.
You got different kind of junglers, right? You have junglers that want a PvP, sometimes they want a PvE.
Yep, he likes the PvE, that's for sure. But on Olaf, once you get boots, just gank, man. Use your insane early game. Go top lane, kill Smitty J and Mininar, just lane gank him. Hard for him to do anything against it. Also bot lane.
Yeah, we got to check in on there. They've caught the Rakan up in the Dark Binding, a couple of headshots, and battle dancing back. Promiscu taking a lot of damage, nearly enough to take him out.
Interesting that Schalke did not go all in for the potential kill. There's Ignite on Vander's side. Promiscu, of course, will get a heal, but it would not have been that effective on him. He actually stepped on a trap first, I believe, and then got binded right after.
Oh, that's that Morgana Dark Binding. It lasts for days, man.
Fun fact, last week Morgana won all 3 games she played, and she won lane really hard because no one dodges bindings in the EU.
I mean, it's a big hitbox. Let's be real here.
Man, Vedi said the exact same thing when I was making fun of it, but I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's slow. Dodge it. Oh, he's ganking.
Speaking of dodging, let's see if Selfie can get the heck out of there. Pride on level 4, not able to connect the dots.
Yeah, interesting he decides to go mid lane out of all the lanes he could have gone for. So that's the one where they don't have good CC set up, and it's not that easy to just collapse on a mid lane as an Olaf. I think top lane again is a bit of an easier choice for him.
Of course, Smitty J getting pretty close to level 6, so stacking up that Narbar as well. And here goes the Mega, but it's just going to be Farm Fest. Big CS advantage going the way of Vizichachi for the time being, though.
Yeah, what on earth happened in this lane?
I have no idea. We've been focusing on everything else.
Yeah, Smitty J, can definitely tell you guys, normally you do not fall 20 CS down in 5 minutes.
Yep. Oh, root up. Get a nice Bramble smash down. So Smitty J is definitely feeling the pain of the Gnar nerfs.
I mean, it could have been a situation where the lane ended up pushing, towards Chachi. Smitty J was afraid of a potential gank. Maybe he's just been missing last hits.
Oh, there's the finding. Speaking of stuff that's hard to dodge. Oh, moves away from the net. Upset and Vander, though, have their way with him here in this bottom lane. So we're starting to see 2 lanes really pull very far ahead while the mid just trades back and forth as you do.
And this is one of the big things about this Caitlyn pick that so many teams value now in Europe is super good laning phase, great setup with things like Morgana that we're now seeing more European supports really want to play. And it just makes this Caitlyn pick so valuable, which is why we suddenly see it first pick. And then, of course, when you get out of that laning phase, utilizing the 5 traps around objectives is just kind of the way to play the mid game as a Caitlyn.
Yeah. Well, and this is not only why they valued it, but it's what Schalke does pretty well. It's just making sure that they set themselves up decently in the laning phase and try to at least go even. But if you're getting ahead, that's even better. feel like the pressure's definitely on Shook to start making things happen in these lanes that are so far pushed out.
Oh, he wants level 6 though. It's a lot easier to gank as a Kha'Zix once you actually get invis and movement speed from the brushes. For now, nothing on his side. And it's mainly just the top lane where we see that big lead for Chachi that sucks for H2K. Bot lane is fine, even though they will fall slightly behind now. And then mid lane, Self is doing a good job. This is actually an old school pick that used to favor the Orianna against the Victor specifically. I don't know if you remember, like World Final.
That was a while back, yeah.
Yeah, but World Final like 2 years ago. Faker would grab Orianna against Victor every time, just take your turret. Also happened in the semi-final back then. But we haven't seen Orianna, in Europe at least, for quite a while this year. Now she's coming back in as one of the potential blind picks you can go for.
I feel like Orianna's always been that champion, though, that like, even if she's popular, she's never the #1 choice. She's just always a safe pick because there's so much you can actually do with her. She's fantastic in team fights the later the game goes on anyways. And even in your worst matchups, you're not going to like just completely get dunked in the lane.
Right, and she brings wave clear, which is always great. Typically for her to win lane, she got to push pretty aggressively, but Selfie's been able to kind of do that. Nukdog has been stuck on his side of the lane. And as you can see, Selfie right there controlling.
And that's the change in the way Nukdog's really kind of evolved over the split too. We've seen him take a little bit more of a utilitarian role as opposed to those crazy dive the back line with the Corki package and get these insane plays. Or even on the Zoe, the last time they met up against G2 Esports. Hey, there's Promisecue dodging a binding. This is where we're going to see most of the action though, is in this bottom lane. Vander taking a little bit of chunk damage as Upset pushes back, keeps the wave nice and cleared with the Piltover Peacemaker.
Alright, Shook got level 6 now. H2K's trading the bottom lane. Just a little bit out of sync.
Pride's here.
So he's still looking for the first gank. Oh, well, second gank in this case, but the first kill for his team.
Yeah, if he does this, he'll be doubling his usual number of ganks.
Oh, let's see. Sheriff. Oh,
that goes in. Dark Binding. Not going to connect. Excuse me. That was the Black Shield. And now Sheriff and Promisecue are out of there.
That was really big. The fact that Vander's Binding did not hit Promisecue. Almost did. Would most likely have been kill for Pride.
Oh, yeah. Well, definitely still a little bit of a slower one to kick things off, but not for lack of trying. The junglers have been attempting to get involved where they've seen so much going on down in this bottom lane. It seems like that's where both teams are going to try to get ahead. And to be honest, that's kind of where the big superstars of both these teams are.
At least the ones who've been carrying late game team fights lately. I still think Nukdog has done a fine job for Schalke. Yeah, at the middle of the split, it went downhill a little bit, but he's actually bounced back really well when it comes to the late game, so it's not just Upset. It's also Nukdog, but I think the AD carry performance we saw, especially with Caitlyn, has been pretty big on the side of Schalke. And Sheriff, of course, been the big hero for H2K.
Yeah, especially on Caitlyn as well, kind of the namesake for him. But there's been so much hype around these AD carries coming to Europe. They're not the only ones, right? And we're looking at some old hands like Reckless also being insane names. But these guys are definitely in the mix.
We have had some very good rookies coming into the split. And that's important for us as a region. Of course, when we see some of the big names leave to go to North America, the fact that we didn't get a large batch of young players join, who then instantly actually make a name for themselves. Right here, we had Sheriff versus Upset. You know, two of the players you can vote for Rookie of the Split. There are, of course, others in that running as well, like H2K, Scaran, these kind of names.
Another AD carry, Mini Trupax.
Mini Trupax. Takamas from Giants have actually done a good job, despite not being maybe too noticed himself. So there's a lot of good rookies at this split, which is a classic thing, of course, for Europe. But specifically between Upset and Sheriff, what we showed also was it's not the early game they win. It's not the early game they stomp and get ahead. It's all about late game team fighting for both of them, which is going to be interesting in this one. And you can even see Upset, he's playing it safe. You know, Ninja Tabby, because he's against so many physical damage dealers from Kha'Zix, Gnar, and Desire. So he feels like, you know what, Ninja Tabby is actually worth more than attack speed boots for him.
Yeah, well, playing it safe is definitely one of the ways Schalke have been able to find their success. They mentioned on the analyst test that it's been such a long and tough split for this team because they've been so inconsistent. It all began when, you know, they had to field substitutions in their first week, Upset having a medical issue. And, and then from there, the team just kind of struggled to find their footing. It really did come together last week, though, and that's why I'm really excited to see what this team can do. And what H2K can try and do to stop them, because the pressure is definitely going to be on as they continue to trade objectives here. Of course, we saw on screen earlier the first Dragon, Infernal, went the way of H2K, but Pride answered back with a Rift Herald. It does seem like a little bit of a tit-for-tat here. Instead of getting the kills, they're getting the objectives.
Yeah, exactly. We're now going to see if Schalke can use the Rift Herald to actually get the first turret. Meanwhile, Chachi's just continued to control top side for himself.
Objective-based gameplay, Deficio. LCK style.
A lot of people cheering when Schalke got that Rift Hill. We got a bunch of fans from Portugal here. You guys also hear them in the background, also cheering for Andre, the coach of Schalke.
Of course, Andre, former Giants coach, went over to Schalke starting things off. And definitely very highly recommended. I think he was a pretty hot property in the offseason.
That's true. It's also great on our analyst desk.
Yeah, fantastic.
He has a future there.
Are you saying he's not going to have a future as a coach?
I didn't say that.
Ooh, spicy.
Just in case, you
Officio
know.
leaks, guys.
Just in case. All right. Both junglers are bot lane. One wants to lane gank, the other one is in the brush. He wants to wait until he actually wants to go for the gank, because if you step in, you obviously proc your passive from the Kazakh's ulti, and then that runs out and it doesn't refresh unless you actually walk in and out again. So that's why he's staying outside until he really wants to pull off the gank.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a two-step trying to get
Pride
involved in the bottom lane.
Though.
Pride's here in the lane. The Kazakhs is incoming. We could be in for the 3v3. They enter an upset trying to look tasty. Sheriff stepping forward. There's the Featherstorm and the quickness getting the knock up, and that's a lot of damage. Vander hopping back, and Shook is hopping right in. That's first blood. They get to stomp off. Olaf, Ragnarok, and throwing some axes out to cover the retreat. But it's H2K that come up with the kill.
Yeah, I really like the patience there from Shook, just staying around the bottom lane, kind of sniffing out the fact that Pride was around. And then he just sat in the river, waited for the big engage, jumps in, and they get the kill for the Kazakhs as well in the bottom lane. So they're playing around the correct lane in the Zyra Khan. They get the first blood, and that Rift Hill that Pride showed up with could have done a lot of damage. Oh, it's post-game lobby time.
Well, it's mid-game lobby at the moment, at least.
Replay lobby.
Featherstorm comes out. There's the nice knockups. Good combo.
Oh, and Vander just not ready right there to actually react and defend himself the moment he gets jumped by Promisq. It's a good setup by H2K. Once again, if they maybe have lost a member on H2K's side in the bot lane, plus Rift Hill being put down, easily first turret of the game to Schalke, but that definitely gets delayed.
Yeah, and they earn themselves a little bit extra gold over Schalke. It's 1,000. It's the biggest gold lead we've had all game at 13. And you combine that with the fact that there's an Infernal Drake.
But H2K winning an early game.
I know. It's crazy, right?
They're actually getting ahead in the early game.
But this is what we talked about in the draft. They needed to be able to do it. And we've seen that, honestly, Schalke, they have a little bit of trouble when they don't have the lead.
Yeah, they're actually the worst team in the EU LCS at coming back if they are behind at 15 minutes. As you guys can see, 14% win rate. And that doesn't even matter how far you're down to 15 minutes. They just almost never come back. It's like,
well, hold on. They got like a minute and 10 seconds to course correct here. Let's see if they can do it.
Let's see if they can get a first turret. Like, Pride could lane gank top now, then place the Rift Hilt, get some gold for his team, and they might win at 15 minutes, so they can still win the game.
Step one. Here comes Pride.
Oh, he's on his way. Smitty Jace out of Mega Gnar.
Let's see if Smitty is going to sniff this one out. Throws another boomerang in the brush. Chachi pops down, gets the root on, smashes him back. The axe is going to catch him. He dodges out the catch, flashing. And that's going to be it.
All right, he can still place the Rift Hilt on top side if he wants to. Try and get the turret. Smitty needs to just kill the minions. Oh, 15 minutes. They got 30 seconds, Pyre.
Oh, man, timer's ticking. This one is real close right now. Officio, Smitty J trying to hang tough, and let's see if they're going to be able to do it. Pride tanks aggro. Smitty J still trying to push him back. His Mega Gnar bar is building up, though. Meanwhile, back on the bottom, it looks like H2K are keen to race for this one.
They
brought Shook in. Let's see who's going to get that first tower blood.
All right, they're going to get the first turret here. Let's see how much gold they're getting for it. They're still behind.
Not by much, though. Not by much.
No, but they're behind at 15
Oh, now they're by much. All right. Official.
There we go. In 2 seconds, suddenly it looks really bad for Schalke. Behind at 15 minutes, they've only won once.
All right, well, statistics aren't everything, Officio. We'll see if they can break the mold. We've already seen H2K do that with their composition being a little different. Shook got a more aggro jungler.
So Pride went topside, of course, as we talked about, but second Infernal just spawned.
This is huge, actually.
And H2K keep playing bottom side, which is the correct lane. Smitty J up there. All he had to do was stay alive, and he did his job. They get double Infernal, and we know this game is going to go to late game teamfights because neither of these teams really snowball very fast or very effective.
And this is the effect of the veterans that H2K brought in. You look at Selfie, you look at Shook.
They called for the Infernal Drake?
They're calling for all the plays. This is what H2K wasn't doing very effectively earlier on in the split.
But the fun thing is they're actually playing around the rookie AD carry.
Of course.
Maybe he's
That's the talent. Oh, maybe. I don't know. If he's a shot caller and the hot talent.
Why not?
He's doing everything.
At this point, we can make up stories. No one can actually prove us wrong. So we're just going to say Sheriff is...
I'm going to say it's the Shook effect, but hey, you know, as you do. Some of this gold influx buying a couple of those items. We've already seen the Xayah pick up the Essence Reaver. Orianna, of course.
Yeah.
Managed to complete the Archangel Staff. There looks like there's a bit of a fight here. Shockwave not going to be able to pull in Pride, and Shook try to get the damage out. Now Selfie flashing away. Schalke throwing their weight around here, but they've got to be careful. Teleport's near to complete, and there's the quickness. Promiscue getting the... Oh! That's a big Megadar, and Upset is not going to be feeling too happy after that one. Smitty, with the last breath of his Meganar, pushes him up against the wall.
Ooh, good calls from H2K again here, kind of dancing around in the river. They actually knew that Vizicsacsi was there, but they didn't care because he was on the other side of the wall. And then good TP from Smitty J and Promiscue. As we talked about in the pick and ban phase, the Rakan actually works really well for him. And him and Sheriff had a good start to this game.
This is looking really good for H2K right now. 2 kills to the Nun, 2 Infernal Drakes, 17 minutes on the clock. The scaling is pretty scary, but they're already doing pretty well entering this mid-game.
And we know if their Shockwave connects from Orianna, boom, that's a big thing for the late-game team fight. So they can always win the late-game fights, even though there's good scaling on Schalke. But so because Chachi's on the other side, no one can actually follow, also due to TP coming. And as they're all running away, poor Upset gets left alone. No Black Shield to save him. Vander's Black Shield so far not been too on point. Not that he should have done it here because he was probably on cooldown, but
yeah.
Before this is...
Well, he did it after the Shockwave even pulled Upset back, so
yeah.
that's the frustrating thing.
That's what I meant.
You're Upset.
Each of the bottom 6 teams can still make it to playoffs, Pyra. So I think the viewers should let us know who they think will make playoffs. And this is definitely not something that I'm reading off the screen. It was just a point I really wanted to make.
Interesting. I feel like there's a hashtag associated with that.
I mean, I believe Schalke fixing their mistakes and overcoming the issues. And this is the weekend that I think they can do it. Again, I'm not reading a tweet. I'm definitely saying this.
Well, now I know where your analytical opinion comes from.
The guy's called Splice Golden.
That's actually a pretty cool name.
That's an interesting name.
Yeah. But for Schalke, I mean, we are seeing some of these mistakes because H2K are taking advantage of the openings that they're given at the moment, and this is why they find themselves ahead of the 18-minute mark.
It's true. It's around that bottom lane at least. Smitty J finally got his Black Cleaver. He can actually start hitting Vizicsacsi and deal somewhat meaningful damage. We'll probably never kill him 1v1, and that's why the objective for Smitty J is going to be get into the big fights. But look at this. Chachi is roaming again because he's pushing his lane. Even sits with TP, so it's Chachi applying map pressure for Schalke. Selfie knows this, needs to be careful without that flash.
All going for the mid lane right now. Selfie does have mana for days though, blue buff on, be able to clear things out pretty easy. Pride is still sniffing around. I don't know if Schalke are super keen to start another fight though.
Well, a lot of their composition was kind of built around the bot lane doing well with the Morgana and Caitlyn, and then kind of rotate them to siege turrets. And then later when Baron spawns, as we said, you know, use the 5 traps around Baron. But now that this bot lane, you know, didn't get an early turret, haven't been able to set up anything around objectives because the 2 Drakes have just gone over to H2K. It's been shut down at least a little bit. They are doing fine in terms of CS. But Sheriff with 2 assists, he doesn't care. Yeah. So,
I mean, for Schalke, it seems to, you know, kind of be the same story. Try to survive, get yourself to that late game. They do have ridiculous damage. We talked how big that this Caitlyn Morgana lane could be. And it, you know, it hasn't done terrible. Yeah, they died once apiece, but that's not the worst thing that could happen. Could definitely be seeing more repeats, but I do want to see Vander be a little quicker on that Black Shield and Upset to have a bit better position in fights.
let's see also mid lane builds. It is a stack of mana meta. Ooh, here's Chachi's TP we talked about.
Here we go. That's the fight going to start. Selfie, Shook trying to scatter away. Chachi, not sure who he wants to go for the chase and not going to find anybody. Throwing out the sapling. H2K on the retreat.
A little bit of a letdown on that one. Chachi's walking bot now. H2K might want to re-engage mid.
Smitty J trying to stack up this Narbar. Let's see if they can push down the mid tower while everyone from Schalke is away.
Let's see. I mean, they're looking for fights mid J's.
Oh, well, that'll stop you short. There we go. Not for long. It looks like they're going to go for the wombo combo. Vander didn't know I hit him, and neither did the rest of Schalke. Shockwave being flashed away. Let's see if they can get that hit. Chaos Storm to try and push them back. H2K will only get one kill for their troubles, but man, that looked cool.
Yeah, I love how proactive H2K are with these engages here. It's Promiscue again. It's so hard for Vander to react in time because recon engages are so quick. And then Smitty J follows up, gets 2 flashes from Schalke due to the shockwave of Selfie. You asked for the mid lane turret, Pyro, you're getting it.
Yes, indeed. That's the second for H2K. Man, I want to know what Promiscue ate for breakfast today. He is going ham.
Maybe he ate ham.
Maybe. It's a viable option.
Yeah. So, Rakan, very fast engages. Vander, not able to Black Shield himself in time, and I like this play here. A lot of teams could just back away after getting the first pick, but they go further in, get that double flash. No one from Schalke can actually react because Chachi, the man who TP'd mid, obviously walked bot lane to catch the wave. So he used his like small window to TP in, and they got nothing for it because Selfie just walked away. And then it's H2K who turned it around instantly and get another kill plus that mid lane turret.
It does seem that while H2K are making some proactive plays here, they're finding the most success when Schalke are actually trying to be the instigators and they're getting burned on a summoner or an ultimate usage.
Can they punish Smitty?
Okay, 1v2. What can Smitty do? He's almost down to half his health bar, still on the Meganar, gets the hop, the crunch, and Cats keep chasing him. He tried to dodge, but he's getting slowed for days. That's a big stomp and a pushback. Flashing forward, they really want this kill. Another undertow from Pride. Smitty J's got a hop soon enough, but he can't dodge it out, and they root him in place, smash him under tower, and Pride gets the kill.
All right, meanwhile, H2K got a top lane turret for themselves. Couldn't stop the Baron. There's no one who could actually tank it on their side with the Kha'Zix jungle. So I like the call from Pride. Go bot lane. Smitty J is overextended. See maybe if you can get the bot lane turret. But if this happens a few minutes later, then I think H2K can actually stop the Baron and threaten to take that down. So Smitty J can return bot lane if he wants. Schalke gets their first kill of the game.
Much needed gold in their pockets. They're still finding themselves behind about 4,000. And, well, if Chachi can take down this turret, starts to close the gap a little more.
Exactly. I think that's why going bot lane for Pride was perfectly fine. They would always lose that top lane turret. They had already given up that side of the map. Ooh, HK might sneak a Baron here. There's a ward outside.
Oh no, Sheriff's gonna get spotted. They don't want it. They want the kills. Dodging out the Dark Binding. Pride, he's on his way out.
Gotta make sure that all the wards in the river are gone. Chachi gets his turret bot lane. Nukdog as well. Well, we haven't talked much about him this game, and he's down in CS now after some of the fights. He's just been farming.
And that's fine if you're Victor.
That's perfectly fine if you're Victor. And with Victor, you can, really get on this stack mana hype train because, of course, you have your own special little item giving you even more mana. Right. And Victor also likes to build Lich Bane, which also will give you more mana. So you end up just stacking so much mana with the Archangel that you get a giant shield. If you, activate it, you get some bonus AP as well by just getting more mana and combine all the items. So his scaling is just even better. Also death cap with the buff to that one, giving slightly more AP. Generally, just Victor's late game is fantastic.
And when we haven't seen a pick for a while, sometimes it comes as a bit of a shock when you just see how much he can actually bomb your health bar down. So H2K will definitely have to be careful. This is why we talk about Schalke as a late game team. Still, though, they do find themselves behind. Remember, what is at stake here? Schalke. Every game's going to count for these guys trying to fulfill their destiny, but for H2K, they can't even afford to lose one.
Oh, look at
and they've started up the Baron.
They're baiting with Selfie in mid. Selfie's just wave clearing. Schalke do not know the Baron is started.
They have no idea. Here comes the Olaf. Can he get in time? No, he can't steal it, but he tries to start the fight. The rest of the team turns it right around. And that was unfortunate for Pride. He tried to get in, couldn't get out.
But man, again, H2K aggressive calls, and they're working. Selfie sits mid, just pretends nothing is happening. He just wave clears. Schalke don't react in time. Baron gets rushed down after H2K cleared out the entire pit. Not like before. And while Pride got close, this Baron it was in H2K's control. Pride just gets in time, does not get the smite here, but that's still a fine call from H2K.
I think that was a nice attempt from Pride. I mean, that was one of the better Leroy Jenkins I've seen in a while, but yeah, just not enough for Schalke. They haven't been able to respond in time.
Nope. And he just got in there in time to do this. If this Baron went down like 1 second faster, he wouldn't have even been close to it. So we gotta praise H2K for a team we just criticized for sucking in the early game. We showed that they're on average down 1,500 gold at 15 minutes. This game they were up at 15 minutes. They were getting double Inferno Drake. Pirate, they even get the buffed Cloud Drake.
We are in completely unknown territory at this point to Fishu. I mean, H2K, remember they started this split like so bad. They could not string wins together at all. They were 1-7. They made these changes. They honestly could not. And we were wondering, is this going to be, kind of the next, I don't know, do you want to call it Origin or something like
Origin.
that? And at this point, there's definitely nobody on the analyst test that would be offended by that, right?
We actually sat down and started looking at longest losing streaks, specifically when preparing for H2K games, because we're like, oh, we might have to talk about it.
We might have to talk about this kill, though. You go back to that in a second. Promise Q! Nuke Duck fires one away.
The binding. The deadly binding.
Yeah, well, you can never take it for granted. But you were talking about losing streaks.
Yeah. I'm just saying, it's like when they were losing all those games and they hadn't made the roster changes yet, we're like, okay, this is going to be really bad. And every split we have one team just dropping games left and right, but not this split. Even H2K, good roster changes, Sheriff performing much better. Find the style in the late game, and suddenly they start winning a lot of games. And again, if they win now, beat Schalke here, man, it's wide open for H2K. Tomorrow they can easily pick up another win, and they are potentially in playoffs.
What a wild ride that would be. A real Cinderella story for a team that, for such a long time had been known as this definitely going to make playoffs, probably choke when it comes down to quarters or semis.
As an organization.
But they also had these big names to back them up, like Jankos, W9D1, these guys. This was the team that had Forgiven, remember, and was top 4 Worlds not too long ago. And this is a completely different roster now, and there's always been a lot of question marks around H2K ever since.
Yeah, it's definitely been fun to follow the growth once we got halfway through the split with H2K when everyone had already given up on the team, and now looking good in this game specifically. We're still looking at all the Schalke scaling, and they're trying to hold on for dear life.
Yeah, I was going to say alarm bells should be ringing for this team right now, and Smitty Day just does not care about Visit. Chachi smashes the tree against the remains of the turret. Shook is coming to help clean him up. He gets a smash back. The cats are on. I don't think he's really going anywhere. The rest of the team is trying to get involved, but meanwhile, H2K are taking down one tower, and Visit Chachi, the cavalry, backs him up, but H2K still don't lose a man.
That was close. Very, very close. The W from Shook got blocked by some minions, I think. In the end, Chachi stayed alive, but he lost his last outer turret. So we got just the base open, and always on the first Baron, it is very acceptable to just get all the outer turrets. Second Baron is when you close out the game, and you're on 3 items now. If you're H2K, your Orianna is fed as hell. They're ready to win the next fight and win the game.
Yeah, Schalke's going to have to be real careful here. If there's a difference maker in this next fight for Schalke, though, who do you think it's going to be? The Caitlyn's only on 2.5 items. Pride, has been pretty much frontlining the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, it almost needs to be on Nuke Duck, but it feels too early in the game to put it all on him. Caitlyn's mid game, we know it's not great. That's why she so often needs to do well in the laning phase and then start playing around objectives. Didn't happen in this game at all because H2K's bottom lane got the ganks. They set up the plays with Promise Q. So now, it's all about wave clearing for Schalke. Hope that you can stall the next Baron for a couple of minutes. Get 3 to maybe 4 items on your big carries and then start winning team fights. But it's all on the side of H2K at the moment.
And this was H2K doing their homework, too. We sat down to prep for this game. We talked about the teams really wanting to play for the lane. H2K have mixed that one up, and they go once more, trying to get the ganks off inside the brush. Chachi falls, and they nearly took down Nuke Duck as well.
But what we actually saw this game was something when we were preparing for it that we did talk about and look at was like, again, and you mentioned this early in the game, Schalke rarely snowballs the early game. And H2K as a team have only really gotten punished in the early game. They've actually won a lot of their late games. So the fact that Schalke lost the early game this hard to H2K is why the game is now so one-sided, because we know H2K can play late game. We know they can play around Baron. They've done that multiple times. Now they're in the late game, and they have a 10k goal lead.
And in a minute and a half, they can play around Baron again.
And that Baron, especially now when they kill the bot lane inhib, might be what they need to finish the game.
I mean, it's a 10,000 gold advantage. You've got double Infernal Drake, the new hotness of the Cloud Drake that now gives you in-combat movement speed.
There we go.
As well as tripling it in the out. But let's take a look at how this fight began again. Smitty, Jay, and Shook. That was a lot of damage between the two of them. And Promise Q.
They know there's only one black shield from a Morgana, but there were 2 members, so we extended. So as long as you go in and use everything, you're going to kill one of them.
At least. Nice they've done their map homework as well. But H2K, they're just taking everything on the map. We're getting 30 minutes into this game.
Even their own red buff.
Yeah.
Greedy.
Very greedy.
Taking their own jungle.
You could be pushing minion waves with that.
That's true. Now, they can set up for Baron Pyra. There are a lot of control wards in the inventory. I like it. There's very few wards from Schalke that they can actually place because, again, there is, of course, no way for your jungler to really provide enough vision. Shook doesn't... I don't know. Vander shot that binding in the wall. He was probably hitting someone or trying to hit someone who was further back, but still looked a little bit funny.
Yeah, well, give him some credit. He was doing well in the laning phase. Just didn't amount to much,
Oh, I didn't mean to criticize him there. It was just fun to see the binding.
Oh, okay. It does go through walls. Oh, traps.
Would be really bad if it didn't.
Yeah, that would actually be a really bad ability.
Yeah. First wall blocks it.
Just the problem, though. They get the catch, but they just don't have the damage. H2K are roaming as a pack right now. And why not? I mean, you've got this Wombo combo you pointed out in the pick and ban phase. They're now completely online. The Orianna is a terror. And this is kind of where it goes for Schalke. They have to pull off increasingly desperate moves just to check out their own jungle. And it's so obvious what's going to happen with the Baron spawning.
Yep, they started. I don't think Schalke can contest it. If they do, at least, they risk just getting jumped and die. Pride and the rest probably have to stay back. So second Baron coming to H2K. They're sitting super, super farmed up at the moment. They have double Infernal Drake. This should be what they need to finish the game in the next 3.5 minutes. And then they take that big, crucial win, because tomorrow they play Rocket. Another team that's just next to them in the standings. Another team where if you beat them, it's double the value, because they get knocked down a peg and you move up.
H2K sitting in the bottom of the standings right now, on the verge of knocking Schalke down a peg, trying to stay alive in this playoff race. This is why every game counts, Deficio. They are knocking on the door, trying to knock down Schalke and get themselves one step closer to those playoffs. But visit Chachi, he might have something to say about that. Teleporting around the backside. Let's see if H2K can make their escape. Smitty J nearly having the Mega Gnar Pride. He goes in, he turns right back around. They just don't feel brave enough. They can't take this fight.
See if H2K can get this last outer turret for themselves. It goes down pretty fast. Chachi already used ulti. He might just die now.
Okay, going golden right now, but that's only going to buy him a few more seconds. There's a big charm, and he gets knocked against the wall. The last inhibitor is going to fall shortly. Excuse me, there's another one in mid, but H2K might not even need it to close this game out. The gold lead just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and Schalke, their base is melting before their eyes.
Okay, they still got plenty of time on the Baron. They can go back now, get full HP, wait for super minions in all 3 lanes, buff up all of them, and look for that last push towards the Nexus. Everything has gone in their favor this game. They've actually outplayed Schalke in basically every stage of the game as well. Chachi tried to TP in and engage again, but everyone from HK walked away. And that is suddenly a very, very easy inhib going down. We talked about this not being an easy comp to play either. Like, you had to play around the Zyra Khan lane. Gotta see if you can wombo combo with Selfie's Orianna. And they've done a good job with it. Schalke, it's back to wave clearing, but how many lanes of super minions can you possibly kill?
Well, I bet they're probably happy that the bandit minions aren't as strong as they once were, because this game could be over by then.
That's very true. Very, very true. Instead, they get one last chance to defend. One last chance to put themselves in a good position when it comes to the playoff race. Losing it to H2K would be horrible for Schalke, because they play Fnatic tomorrow. Yeah, that's not who you want to face in a do-or-die situation. Fnatic might already be locked in that #1 spot, but they're not going to give up games just for nothing. Oh no, they're definitely going to take it serious. So this seemed like the game that Schalke had to win if they wanted to fight for that playoff spot. But H2K needed it too. Very true. That's it. The final push, and they have the minions to do it. The damage is all too real. Upset sending out an ace in the hole, but his team could very well get ace and fall right down after this one. One tower going down, the second tower soon to fall. Promiscue trying to go in, and he finds the kill. It's going to be Sheriff picking off Pride. And they're just giving ground here. Nothing they can do. Systematic destruction into H2K. The playoff dream is alive. They just stomped Schalke. H2K showed up big time. They played for the early game. They played around the Zyra Khan lane, and they did so many things correct, and Schalke did almost nothing correct in this game. If we had an award for most improved team of the split, you'd have to give it to these guys. From where they started making a couple substitutions, and now to be on the verge of playoffs, improving to 7-10. The Cinderella story is still alive, Deficio. And they play Rocket tomorrow. Win that game, and suddenly it looks fantastic for H2K's playoff chances. We'll get to see what Rocket's got in their pockets as well coming up next. Because a reminder as well, if H2K had lost this game, they were out. They were done. That's it. They win it. They're still in the race. They can beat Rocket tomorrow. I believe in the guys, and... Oh, you got to super believe at this point, man. H2K, that was a brilliant game. They knew exactly what their win condition was. They took advantage of the fact that Schalke could not punish them enough in the early game. And they just dunked them. Completely, man. Great Baron play as well. I almost lose my voice after one game. I mean, yeah, well, you better drink that tea, man. For Schalke, though, I mean, not only is this worrying, but I feel like even the reactions that they had and the proactive plays they had just were delayed. It kind of felt like they were just sort of on the back foot the whole time. Yeah, I mean, they clearly tried, right? We had a few Pride ganks. He went mid once. That was He did try to steal the Baron. That was kind of cool. He also did, but like his first mid lane gank never really worked for him. Then he goes top lane and bot lane a few times, and you know, it kind of makes sense, but every time it happened, they didn't really gain any big advantage from it. And we saw the counter engages from Promiscu on Rakan, multiple times catching out people, even against the Morgana, securing a few early kills, plus double Infernal in the early game because Zyra can't control the bottom side. It was really, you know, a smart plan from H2K, having Kha'Zix play down there when he needed to actually execute a gank, and Shook did it successfully. So a lot of good things for H2K.
Yeah.
Big thing for them when it comes to the playoff race, and horrible for Schalke. Fnatic tomorrow, do or die.
They're going to have to make some serious turnarounds. But for H2K, it was all team effort, but there's always some players that stand out in this matchup. The ones we were looking at were Promiscu, Sheriff, and Smitty J. Those are your options for the player of the game. So head over to @LOL Esports on Twitter. Tell us who you think deserves the win. Who do you think deserves the win, Deficio?
I'm probably either on Smitty J or Promiscu.
I want to give it to Promiscu, man. Those Rakan ults were crisp.
He had a lot of good engagements. I think Smitty J also played really well despite falling down in his early laning phase. He actually showed up big time in team fights.
Yes, indeed he did. Now, these teams are fighting to get to those finals in Copenhagen. That's the 7th and 8th of April. If you want to watch that event live, you can, of course, still buy your tickets at eu.lolesports.com. So what are you waiting for? Go there. Go. Go.
I agree.
Absolutely. Now, coming up next, we got Misfits Gaming. Now, they're in the danger zone. They're looking to lock that playoff spot up against Rocket. We'll be right back for that. An interview with Promiscu right after this. See Sheriff stepping forward. There's the Featherstorm and the quickness getting the knock up, and that's a lot of damage. Vander hopping back, and Shook is hopping right in. That's first blood. You got to be careful. Teleport's near to complete. There's the quickness. Promiscu getting the oh, that's a big Meganar, and Upset is not going to be feeling too happy after that one. Ooh. Well, that'll stop you short. There we go. Not for long. It looks like they're going to go for the wombo combo. Vander didn't know what hit him, and neither did the rest of Schalke.